Welcome back to Shattering Myths. We still have Glenn on the line. I don't know if he's listening or as a participant going forward in this second hour. But we have Glenn, and we also have our good friend and artist, Kirk. How are you, Kirk?
I'm good. Good morning. Both of you and Glenn. Hey.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, everybody.
I understand that you Go ahead.
Go ahead. I could drop off. I was just going to make a parting shot and drop off. Let Kirk take over here. I heard them mention Loretta Lynch on the news thing. Wasn't she a coal miner's daughter?
Yes. There you go.
That was Loretta Lynch.
Yeah, she at least played one.
That was Loretta Lynch.
Yeah, that's interesting, by the way, on coal, in that this administration in particular has gone to war against America's most prevalent energy resource and has done everything they can to preclude its use. And the coal, both the gasification of coal, which is what ran the German war machine, the gasification of coal, turning coal into to fuel to run machines and airplanes, and coal being burned to generate power. It's America's most prevalent energy resource, and we would be energy independent if we used it. But climate control is going to trump the use of America's energy asset. And, of course, the president is also banning any exploration of ANWR, which is where we have our largest reserves, and also exploration and drilling in the offshore in the Gulf and eastern seaboard. And between those things, it makes us wholly energy dependent, which is a big part of total control.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And they can even burn bituminous cleanly these days, let alone anthracite. So that's
You're right.
Yeah, I should go. But one last thing, the Dow is trending down. The Dow is trending down, but don't worry, the Apple Watch is on its way to save us.
Oh, okay, well, there you go. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be a buyer of the Apple Watch. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I'm still an analog guy. I actually take my sense of time is based upon the amount of light. If dawn is beginning to break, then I slept in, and it was a little late to get up. I like to get up at 5:15 to 5:30, and once the sun begins to set, it's time to feed the dog, to go out to an early dinner, and I'll unwind a little bit after dinner. But
Are you an early bed?
I'm an early bed guy. Yeah, I am.
I like to stay up late and draw and all kind of stuff and read and have a good time.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm covering all those other areas while you're sleeping. So.
Okay, well that's good. That's good. I was drawing last night, by the way.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, I was drawing. I like architecture, and I was drawing a garage with a studio office above it for the home in Cincinnati that we're buying to be grandparents. So once we get this one sold, this one is actually in escrow. It's supposed to close here in about 2 weeks. But we bought a home in Cincinnati to be grandparents, and I spent last night looking at the county assessor's office to get a feeling for the property line and setbacks and the like, and drew a sort of attached via a walkway garage. So I was drawing last night.
Okay, well done.
Yeah, well, no, you haven't seen my drawing. I am capable of drawing straight lines and drawing something to scale.
That's why they invented the ruler, So
well, that's what I use.
I grow crooked lines,
Yeah, I know. You're probably freehand. Yeah, I know. I use a ruler. Yep. And I actually drew the building in ink, and only had to white out 2 tiny mistakes. So that was pretty good. I was on my best behavior last night.
Well done. Well done.
You had a comment or two on circumcision before we jump back into the testimony?
I had a couple of things. On circumcision, I had a couple of comments, and I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
And I was thinking about it without beating this thing to death. I couldn't. These are almost rhetorical in a sense, but when you think about circumcision, because it's such a hang-up for everybody, I thought to myself, well, Yahowah wouldn't ask someone to harm their children. I mean, so it's obviously not a harming thing.
No.
And he wouldn't injure somebody's body in a way that it it would be difficult to reproduce or to make it less pleasant.
Or to enjoy the process of reproduction. Love, right.
So that's really not going to happen. So if that's appeared to somebody, that's absurd.
Right.
And he must have known, he knew everything ahead of time, so he knew that there was some superfluous skin attached to this part of the body. So in the scenario,
right. And that you are healthier if it is it's a health advantage.
Yeah,
from not only cleanliness, but also for venereal disease if it's clipped. And spreading of venereal disease, you're healthier, and so is your partner if it is clipped. And he asked us to clip our sons on the 8th day, which happens to be the time where of all of human life, the 8th day from the time we were born is the time that our blood is the best suited to coagulate into and heal.
Yeah.
So a wound on the 8th day is the least likely to bleed out and the most likely to heal quickly and without side effect.
Yeah.
So his timing was even perfect.
Mm-hmm. And it also symbolic of eternity. Just happens to throw in.
Just happens the 8th day is not only symbolic of eternity, but the letter for 8 is the very sign we use for infinity today.
All right. So there's really not a negative at all that you can find on this thing. So
no.
It's not a big deal, especially today. If you had to have it done today, it certainly would.
Yeah, it is a big deal in the sense of it's the sign of the one and only covenant, and the covenant is the only way to have a relationship with Yahowah and to benefit from what God has to offer. It's the only means to escape mortal life.
Yeah.
But in terms of what he's asking for us, it's like every other condition of the covenant, Kirk. Each of the 5 conditions for us to participate in the covenant, although they all require something from us, there's not one of the 5 that's a sacrifice.
No.
All 5 are benefits.
Yeah, nothing.
We benefit when we are aware that human institutions, political, military, economic, religious institutions are corrupt, and we separate ourselves from them. There's just this great release in terms of understanding and perspective and openness to reality and to truth. So that's a huge plus. Walking to Yahowah to become perfect is a huge plus because you get to enjoy these festival feasts with him and party with him.
Yeah.
The whole concept of paying attention to the terms and conditions of his covenant, searching his word, is a great adventure of discovery.
Mm-hmm.
Trusting and relying on Yahowah is very comfortable once you come to know him. And so that only leaves circumcision, and you talked about it. It has a health benefit, and it probably has a benefit also in terms of just satisfaction. Mm-hmm. And it has no risk associated with it.
Yeah, it's really not. These are not negative, so that should take that out of the equation.
There is a major campaign, though, and in opposite views. One in Africa that is encouraging circumcision because of the plague of venereal diseases throughout Africa. And so in Africa, there are national campaigns to encourage circumcision at birth to try to eradicate some of these venereal diseases. And in the United States and in Europe, there is exactly the opposite.
Right.
That there's a political campaign to outlaw it and to render it as savage. And the only reason for doing that would be that it's a political correctness trying to establish itself as the national religion in opposition to Yahowah.
I have a Jewish friend who was talking about they're trying to outlaw it in San Francisco, and that's becoming quite a problem for the Jewish community there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the more liberal the community, the more steeped in political correctness. San Francisco would be probably highest in America on that list because in San Francisco, the moral code of political correctness takes bisexuality and homosexuality as the most enlightened position. And so it is extraordinarily prevalent there. That's the community that's one of many that is trying to outlaw circumcision, which would make it, by the way, the Torahless one, who will come in just 11 years, he will outlaw circumcision.
I'm sure
worldwide.
Hadrian did.
Yeah, and just like Paul went to war against Hadrian, outlawed it, the Roman emperor, not only did Hadrian outlaw it, but Paul spoke against it. So circumcision will be is a sign of the covenant that is going to find the greatest pushback from society. Do you know that in medical school, one of the things they will teach you in medical school, and I've gotten so many people who are in medical school who have sent me the journal articles on this, that science doesn't mean that you don't have it talked about unless you're looking for it. But there's a form of male prostate cancer, not prostate cancer, but testicular cancer, I think, that has never found in a circumcised male. So there are forms of genital cancer in men that are only found in uncircumcised males.
Yeah.
So
another point, yeah.
Yeah, another point. I mean, the guy's good.
Yeah.
The guy that designed there's some aspects of our machinery here that, probably could be. I might have tried a different approach, but he knows what he's doing.
I have my hair back.
Yeah, there you go. See. Yeah, but when it comes to design qualities, yeah, he's quite an artist.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Now
right. Circumcision, like every sign of every condition of the covenant, is actually in our benefit.
Yeah.
That's what fathers do, by the way.
Yes.
I mean, the conditions for living in the home. If you had a son that was sexually perverted and he was raping your daughter, you would say you can't live here. In fact, for you to allow your son to live there and take advantage of your daughter would make you grotesquely immoral. And that's an extreme version of saying, this is Yahowah's home. It's in our interest that he establish some conditions for us living in his home. Welcome back to Shattering Myths. So, Kirk, your point is well taken. That the fact of the matter is that what Yahowah is asking us to do regarding circumcision isn't a burden. And I really get sick of the excuse, and I've heard it so many times where people write, for you to say that God requires somebody to be circumcised to be saved, to enter heaven, that makes God, this mean-spirited individual who would tell the 70-year-old man who's just now learning about the covenant that at 70 he has to go out and be circumcised or he's excluded. That's a God that I don't want to know.
Abraham liked him.
Yeah, well, Abraham did it, and Abraham didn't have a problem with him. But if the covenant that Yahowah formed with Abraham isn't acceptable to you, that's fine. Don't want you in heaven anyway.
Don't have to go in everybody's house,
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Good riddance. Stay away. But that is the bottom line. And by the way, if you were we have probably had 20. 65 to 80-year-old men who have come to know Yahowah through the various shows and books where we've taken the time to share what he had to say, and have been convinced that Yahowah was God and that he revealed his Torah to guide us to the covenant, and that there is no mistaking that circumcision is a requirement for a man to be part of the covenant. And at more than 65 years old, there's at least 20 who have been circumcised. And the cost was anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000, depending on where it was done. And I'm talking about people around the world, Europe, New Zealand, Australia, the United States, Canada, South America, have shared their stories. They paid anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 to have it done. They said it was done in a matter of hours, that it was a non-event, that there was a little bit of soreness. That day, but the following day they were back to normal.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a kind of a hypothetical question I wanted to ask.
Oh, by the way, can I just throw one thing before we have our hypothetical question? But rather than blame God for the 70-year-old man doing what Abraham did and becoming circumcised in advanced years, you ought to be blaming your parents.
Well, I was about to say that, yeah.
Yeah, you ought to blame your parents. The instruction is for parents to circumcise their children on the 8th day. That is so that we and they will remember the covenant, and we're prepared for the covenant. It's our responsibility as parents to prepare our children just as Yahowah prepares us, to educate them just as Yahowah educates us. That's the purpose of parents circumcising their children. So your parents let you down. If you're a male not circumcised and you want to be part of the covenant, don't get mad at God. Get mad at your parents, and get mad at the religious leaders and political leaders who hoodwinked them.
Mm-hmm. Here's a little situation, hypothetical situation, we'll say,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted your comments on it.
Sure.
You're an adult. You've come to know Yahowah to some degree, and you obviously want to be part of the covenant. But you have a child that's not circumcised, but it's not a child anymore. It's an adult that perhaps it still needs your supervision because of a handicap or something like that. If the child doesn't want to do it, I mean, you can't very well.
That's correct.
You just can't do it.
Yeah, and I have received a score of letters or more from husbands and wives who have come to know Yahowah and the covenant later in their lives, who did not circumcise their children. In fact, one man that I dearly love down under. And he encouraged his sons to be circumcised. And I know at least one of them, if not two of them, have become circumcised later in life. And my advice to them is always the same, which is that once your children are adults, they're under the auspices of free will. I mean, all you can do is explain the covenant to them and tell them its benefits and conditions, and encourage them to do it. And if you have the wherewithal, if you have, let's say it's $1,000 to $5,000 to have it done later in life, if you have the wherewithal as a parent to give them money and say, I want to give this to you so that if you choose to have this done, which I hope you do, at least I will have done my best to correct, my omission in the past. And I always equate this so that there's no guilt on the parent's part. Once you become part of the covenant, our guilt is washed away. And there are, when I was a Christian and I was political and patriotic most of my life, I said and did a lot of things that I ought not have said and done. But once we stop, once we walk away from those things, Yahowah doesn't hold them against us anymore. And so the parents should feel a sense of relief. Welcome back to Shattering Myths. Kirk, I'd like to provide a personal response to your hypothetical. My brother's mentally handicapped, born mentally handicapped. And once he reached, I think he was like 16, 17, and showed an interest in girls. My father recognized, I think maybe he was 18 years old, showed an interest in girls. My father recognized that it was wise to perform a vasectomy. I mean, Scott, my brother's a loving guy. Wonderful person. Just thrilled to be around. But he could process information at a certain level, and that wasn't going to change. And so my father decided that it would be appropriate to give my brother a vasectomy. And my brother had no interest, of course, in that. And then, he actually misled him and said, I was always Bubba, that Bubba was going to have one too. We'd both have one. And well, if Bubba was going to have one, then it was okay with him. And so he acquiesced as an adult to the vasectomy because Bubba was going to have one. And while I have subsequently had one, I didn't have one until after our second son was born. And so when our first child was born, he said, well, he called them uticles. How come Bubba's uticles weren't fixed? Because he obviously had the birth of our first son, and it was really difficult to then say, well, your dad misled you, because it was in your interest. And it was really a sad situation going back to see how he was misled. So I have a personal experience with not with circumcision, but with the vasectomy, same part of the anatomy, with a mentally handicapped adult. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, as I look at the disappointment of having been deceived, that it was a bad call.
Yeah, I can say that. Wow.
So I don't think there's anything that the parents can do for this mentally handicapped adult, other than to, as you know, based upon the artistic presentation that Yahowah has made, very simple, clear presentation of who he is and what he's offering, and the Hebrew characters themselves, that Yahowah's story resonates with anyone who's open to it. Yeah. And so, I would encourage them, if they're capable, and if not them, someone like yourself who can communicate Yahowah's plan of wanting to be dad in an eternal heavenly family and home, to communicate that, such that the individual chooses to be circumcised.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all you can do, isn't it? I mean, you can't.
That is all you can do.
Yeah.
Now, and I don't know where it was that I found this, and I think it's in Yahowah, but I'm not positive. My mind isn't as retentive of information as it once was. Mm-hmm. But as I was translating information on the family covenant, I came across a passage whereby the only rational, consistent interpretation of what God said is that a child born into the family where the father is a member of the covenant, and I suspect that just because Hebrew is a language that everything has a gender attached to it, that it might well have also meant the mother, but it was written as just the nature of the language. It spoke of the father, where a father is a member of the covenant, that child, up into the age, and it doesn't specify the age, but that's the implication, that while the child is still a child, that the child will receive the fate of or receive the benefit of the parents. So that if the child were to pass away early to a parent who is a child of the covenant, that the child would receive full benefits of the covenant.
Yeah, and that's. I think that's probably. I would. Yeah, I believe that's right.
And it seemed right. And then I read a passage that was explaining the fate of children under these circumstances, and that's what the words conveyed. So, but that being the case, Yahowah is so clear that an uncircumcised male cannot enter his home, because it's the sign of the covenant, and I don't see where God ever makes exceptions.
Yeah.
So I think in this hypothetical, if it is a hypothetical, then I wouldn't worry about it. If it's mirroring a real life situation, I would do everything I could to, in very simple terms, to present the covenant so wonderfully and simply to the young man that he chooses to have this done.
Well, like Terry said, he doesn't say how much.
He doesn't say how much.
Yeah.
Does not say how much, doesn't say when, doesn't say, well, it does say when as parents, but it doesn't.
But if you're beyond that time of the 8th day, then you come to know later, that would be another option. It doesn't have to be, well, you can just take it from there.
Yep. Let's return, if we can, to the statement of Yahowah. This is 17:11. After telling us in 17:9 and 10 that this is Bereshith, Genesis 9 and 10, that the most important thing is for us to be observant, to closely examine and carefully consider what Yahowah had to say about the covenant. After presenting that perspective, that umbrella for what follows, we need to be observant. Yahowah told us that we should, for all time, for all generations, circumcise our sons so that they remember. And then this is the specific instruction on this. He says, and you shall cut off and separate, mul, your foreskins, this is erelah, association with, eth, the flesh, the bashar. And this will exist, haya, as the sign to remember, oath, the family-oriented covenant relationship, bereth, between me for the purpose of making a connection, bien, and between you promoting understanding. That's a mouthful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Mul is the first word. That's the word for cut off and separate, circumcise. Described in the niffle stem. The niffle stem is the voice of relationships where the subject, that would be you and me.
During the action on the...
Right, expressly as a parent. So this is, this is parents regarding their children. So us as parents, that we receive the benefit of the verb, which is circumcision. And it was written in the perfect conjugation, which means this is not an ongoing cut. This is the once and done. The circumcision is not an ongoing thing. You just do it.
Yeah.
You do it and you're done with it.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's written in the perfect. It's you do it and you're done with it. And because of the niffle, it says that we as parents receive the benefit of having done this. This is the parents being asked to do it, and the parents receive a benefit. And the benefit of the parents is now they're putting themselves in the position of Yahowah, in the sense of Yahowah's role as father over his family, and they're preparing their children to be part of his family, just as Yahowah prepares us and transitions us to be part of his family.
Mm-hmm. So, absolutely, yeah.
And Mul, why don't you, there's 3 letters in Mul, why don't you lighten us on those?
Yeah, I'm not quite on the same page with you, but I remember Mo being, is an M, obviously the Mem, followed by the Wah and the Lamb. So you have the water, or life-giving, and then the addition to is where we use the Wah most often. And then the Lamb is leading us, guiding us, his children. So it's the oldest thing I found was it talks about it just simply it didn't really give you much insight beyond just cutting the foreskin, as far as circumcision. But the root, the MJ, is the speak word into continuation of segments which fill the whole, and then so from the root is M lamb, mem lamb. So. That's about all I got on that one.
Yeah, it's the mem for cleansing, the wah for adding to, and the lamed for the shepherd, and for being led to the place where the home is secured and where life is renewed and the sins are cleansed.
Now, let me ask
you Lamed.
Let me ask you a little side question here. And when I'm doing, because I'm doing a lot of, analyzing different words and so forth, like Shavuot we talked about. I'm working on that slowly and slower. But I'm trying not to read more into it or put things into it when I'm reading, but it's hard not to. It's so obvious. Like you'll see a word that'll say exactly what it means, and then if you by just understanding, I mean, it's just absolutely the same story Yah's telling over and over and over. I mean, he's really puts this in all these words. I mean, I'm finding it. You know how normally you think it wouldn't have much bearing on everything, but gosh, when you go through 10, 20 words in a passage, most of them are right on target. Do you
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of freaky. I'll give you an example if you like. I don't want to get you off course.
Go ahead. No, please. Yeah, please.
Well, but we're watching a show the other night. I'm getting kind of weird. We're watching a show the other night about midwives. And for some reason, I decided, well, let me look up midwife and see what it says. And I know we're going to go to a break in a second, but, it has a yod, a lamb, and a delete. And let me tell you what it said and then what it said to me.
Okay, well, we have to do this after the commercial break, but why don't we commence at this point after the quick commercial break. All right, Mr. Artist, you had a word.
It sounds weird, but I'm an artist, so if they think I'm weird, so what? I mean, that's all right. I can get by on that. But
you're probably a hippie artist. I mean, I was picturing the long wavy hair and the throwback to the 60s, but you're saying you'd like to have your hair back.
Grow because girls like this. So when I had hair, I certainly let it grow a little bit in college, but I don't like being dirty.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, if you play ball, you get dirty, but I mean, that's not a natural state to be in all the time.
Okay.
But here was the point. All I'm doing, the only motivation to do any of this stuff for me is to turn over these stones and find out as much as
it's fun turning over stones.
I mean,
yeah, it's fun turning over stones. The stones that I most like to turn over are the ones that people think would say, all right, that'll undermine your perspective. The ones they say, but God really does want to be worshipped. Look what it says over here. And you say, Jesus really is his name. Look what it says over here. And when they give you the challenge, that's like the Yosha's comment is his answer to the religious group. The only sign I'm going to give you is the sign of the 3 days. Jonah of 3 days and 3 nights and the heart of the land. And you say, see, that proves your time line is all off. It couldn't have been Pesach, Matzah, and Bakonim. And then you go into it and you read it, and then you read the actual story in Hebrew, and you go, oh, wow, all this does is reinforce what we've come to know is true. So I love those. I love turning over the stones. And it's almost like God says, aha, I rewarded you for doing this.
There was.
I rewarded you for doing it. Aren't you glad you did it? It's like, go ahead and test me.
Through, but I did.
Yeah. You were wondering if I was going to pull this one off, but there you go.
But
I think it's fun.
This was a case in point. I mean, I don't know why I did it other than it was just funny at the time. I said, well, I'll look it up for the heck of it. And you have a yod, and you have a lamb, and you have a delete. And that's a hand reaching down with a guiding staff and to a doorway. Now, I know that what they're talking about is a midwife is guiding a child through the birth canal.
Right.
And that's fine, and that means exactly. But then you analyze it. I can't look at those.
And trying to protect the life of the child and the mother.
And helping.
Right. To make that whole birth process as safe. For the newborn child and for the mother as is absolutely possible, to help in the birth of a new life and positioning the mother in the best possible position to nurture that life. That's a midwife, right?
Absolutely. And I can't help but see Yah's hand reaching down, guiding us to a doorway which is Passover. And I'm not trying to read more into it than is there. But you can't, but either I'm just grabbing his straws and trying to put everything together, or Yah is so good that you can't find the word hardly where he doesn't put it all in.
Right, and there is the visual imagery. I don't know, how many of our listeners have been there, and I can only speak from a man's perspective. but I was there for both of our children were born, and that the hand reaching in through that opening to give the first breath of life to a newborn child, and realize that Yahowah's term for the first woman and mother was Chawa, life giver. And that Passover is the doorway to life, with Yahowah's hand reaching down to grasp ours as we walk through and follow the shepherd to the ultimate pasture. It seems to me that he designed humanity and his alphabet to reinforce and convey these truths, and that there is a great deal of I don't want to get graphic, but there's a great deal of visual reinforcement there.
Yeah, you can't miss this story if you're willing to look.
If you're willing to look.
And I'm not trying to prove that your translation is right or I know anything.
No.
I'm just saying you can't.
No.
I was a debater in high school. That's real good. You can't argue this stuff.
You know, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I took an approach to Yahowah's testimony, which I thought was uncommon, which is a debater's perspective. I wanted to debate this. I wanted to apply the rules of debate, which are the rules of logic. And I wanted to see if Yahowah's testimony would withstand the rules of logic in debate. And the more I put myself in the debater's mindset and tested everything, the more I realized, whoa, Yahowah's the ultimate debater. He laid down an absolute perfect argument on behalf of who he is and what he's offering.
Yeah. Just every turn, the stuff I'm
every jot and tittle, right?
Yeah, every.
Yeah, man.
It's almost comical that it's so right.